live streams and stuff.
Okay, Facebook and YouTube are both live.
Oh, no. Yeah, works with,
And,
it was a series, I was like, I don't need it, but.
getting all these notifications right now. It's driving me nuts.
I know, your phone went crazy last time.
Like the second live popped up, he's like, live here, live there.
One more minute. Move this over here because it's just easier to see all three. Hi guys, I'm gonna take off my mask so that the deaf community can read my lips. My lips because I can't sign fast enough. Sorry. I need the books. Where are the books? Oh, they're in that box. Can you hand me the books? I trade you.
I can't do anything with that.
Thank you. I don't know what to do with that. Sorry.
I'll start scanning you guys in. We're still functioning, so I'm doing stuff over here. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, we're still kind of functioning. We have decided that most likely our last day will be the 9th. So this Saturday is probably going to be our going away party is probably going to be our last day. Just double check that YouTube is getting sound. Hi, YouTube. Yeah, we're sad about it, but again, we can't really openly talk about it just yet. We just kind of have to keep mums the
You guys
word.
see the sign down there?
Did you guys see the sign? And yeah, so sadly, that's probably going to be our last day. We will be having Hicham Habshi, DC Comics artist, rolling through, and he will be signing books, I believe, at 3 p.m. on Saturday.
Correct.
We will also have Stormtroopers from 501st, and we will have Rebel Alliance, and supposedly there's an Ewok coming.
Supposedly, yeah.
Supposedly, I'm all excited to see Wicked. But yeah, so that's cool. Anything else? Well, we might see Lawrence Ararte. We aren't sure quite yet. We're hoping. But yeah, there should be a lot of people, and there will be giant sales. We already have giant sales, so believe me, if you need trade paperbacks or you need a discount on comics, like literally everything will be discounted 50%, save for what's in glass, the main collectibles, and this long boxes over here. Those are the only things that aren't 50%. Will Hicham do any sketches? I have no idea. Grading will still be available for Saturday? Yes. And just so you guys know, if you still have stuff that you're waiting to get back from Al for grading, just pay attention to our Facebook, because we're going to announce all that stuff on Facebook, and you can pick it up, I believe, at Chris's Comics. But we will be planning all that, and we will also keep all your numbers in our system so that if we got to power up the system and give you guys a call and let you know.
So far,
We won't be leaving you hanging. I promise. I promise we won't leave you hanging. What else? Pop culture news?
Oh, God. Facebook?
Yeah, we know that
Facebook went to the dog yesterday.
Facebook died yesterday. It was pretty comical. It was Facebook, Instagram. It was pretty much all the Facebook, WhatsApp, everything owned by Facebook died mysteriously yesterday after Facebook had a whistleblower announce that they were going to testify. It is the strangest occurrence. It really is mysterious. Somehow, someone will have to do it. Yeah.
You saw the video for it.
What? For what?
The whistle one.
Oh, yeah?
Like,
I haven't seen that.
I can send it to you.
And she was like, dude, this is ridiculous. I'm like, I know.
Yeah.
It's what people have been saying.
Yeah.
for years
We've
now.
been saying it, though, for a while. It's kind of ridiculous. So that happened. We know that the DC, what is it? The DC Fandom. I always forget the name of that event. DC Fandom is 16th. So I'm excited for that. I am disappointed that Naomi is not on the the DC Fandom. I almost said CD Fandom. She's not on the poster.
On the poster, but
She's having an event, but she's not on the poster.
They can't reveal everything for this.
I'm sorry.
But they will be there.
She's absolutely worthy of that poster. Anything else? Yeah, the final Smash character got announced. It's Sora from Kingdom Hearts. Sorry if I'm spoiling that for you, but I was pretty hyped. So,
I was too.
Yeah, Yeah. I am infinitely disappointed it's not Waluigi, but I am kind of hyped that it's Sora. I mean, if you're gonna end it, that's a note to end it on. For sure.
Saturday we're having a big event.
Anything else? Oh, Venom came out. Cam, you saw it. You said it's good. I've seen mixed reviews on it. Like mixed reviews. And the thing about it is like it's always these sites that I'm like, I know you're not really that into comics. You just
Right.
so I yeah, I don't know. But you said you loved it.
Loved it.
Okay.
Stay around for the end credit scene if you want to temper yourself.
Yeah, end credit scene. So I will definitely watch that. Okay, so before we begin the reviews, I think we should just thank literally everyone. Like y'all coming to the store and shopping and chopping it up with us for the last 3 years, and some of you have been with us since day one. Like Cam and Nate, you guys were here almost like day one, pretty close to it. Klein Hines, there's so many people to name. Lawrence, Al, yeah, just so many people. And then also we're referring people to Chris's Comics for good reason. I don't know if I told you guys this before, week 3 for Al, but Chris's Comics, Chris wound up in our store, I think 2 weeks after we opened, and literally gave us a mountain of good advice, which is not something a competitor would typically do, but the guy just has a really good heart, and we respect and love those guys. So we would love it if the rest of our business would go to Chris, and at least lift their ship up. Again, we really can't talk about what happened. It's breaking our heart, but if the time comes to talk about it, you might see a bonus video where we're chopping it up. But for right now, while we're still sort of dealing with the fallout, we just can't speak about it. It just involves not our finances. Like our finances from our customers and all of you was plenty. Like we made enough to float the shop. That's the God's honest truth. Like everything we factored in from the beginning of this store to now, like it was all exactly to the numbers we expected. The real problem came from just an unexpected place that we can't just discuss. But to give you some clarification, like if this hadn't happened, like we would have been taking home paychecks the whole time. As it stands, because of what this entity did, like I took. How many times did I take home a paycheck, Yogi?
What's that?
How many times did I take home money?
Oh God, did you take home money?
It was like maybe a handful of times at most.
Yeah.
So it was just a really sort of dirty, unexpected thing, and we can't talk about it publicly, but it is what it is. But are we gonna miss you guys? Yes, we're gonna miss the hell out of you, and we might still keep the Twitch. We haven't done anything with the Twitch gaming stuff in a long time, but we might still revive that, and the two of us might still do the Twitch gaming thing. You might see us on that, so check out the Green Machine Comics Twitch page. But as far as the shop is concerned, we're definitely shutting it down on the 9th, and it's breaking our hearts. Like all you coming in to ask us about it is just it's hurting. But we love y'all, and we wish we didn't have to do this to you. Like really wish we didn't have to do it. You saw that time, man. You just never change, Jason. Like, sorry, things. It's okay, Craig. Like we'll figure it out. But in the meantime, the best thing we can do for our customers and for all of you is to get you in here and buying your books for 50% off. So at least through Saturday, everything on the shelves, and to include trade paperbacks. Like finally want to get the entire collection of Deadly Class, 50% off. Ours on Friday. I may be here Friday. Yogi will be here for sure.
Manga too.
We got manga too. So if you've been dying to get manga, it's 50% off. As opposed to the high schoolers who always think it's about 100% off in our store.
A few times.
But yeah, so for Friday our hours are noon to 6. Pick up your pulls. Please pick up your pulls. Please pick up your pulls, because if you do not pick up your pulls by Friday, they might go out on Saturday. We don't know. We haven't fully decided. We might keep the pulls at Yogi's house for at least like a month or two, But like, we're not gonna be sitting on stock for long. If you're not a person who generally regularly picks up your pulls and like you have 6 months worth of books, come Friday, your stuff is gone, and we're gonna sell it for dirt cheap in the box of shame to like everyone else. If you're a regular or someone we know, we're still debating. We might just keep it passing. You might just be able to go pick it up at Yogi's house because you're a regular and we love you. But if you're I don't know, give me a fake name. Phil McFakeface, who's been here once. Think you're gonna pick up your pulls at Yogi's house after you have like 9 months worth of books saved? No, I'd rather sell them for cheap. I mean, hell, if I gotta burn those books, I'll burn them. Like, Phil, you're a jerk. That's all I'm gonna say. If someone out there really is named Phil, that was a fake name. I'm sorry. What else? Anything else to add, Yogi?
Just come out Saturday.
Just come out Saturday. Come hang out with us on Saturday. Come to our store one last time. Come celebrate the closing.
No food or anything. We're just gonna hang out.
Yeah, I mean, like, endings aren't really endings because we're all just sort of.
It's another chapter.
Yeah, we're all just another chapter. Yogi said. Getting choked up. I need to move on to the books, the reviews. All right, we're gonna go into the reviews. I don't want to get choked up. First book, and it's not my pick of the week, but man, it was so close. Dugan, Zurcher, and Tartaglia, and we're talking about Savage Avengers. I can finally talk about that last Savage Avengers, and my God, was it good. So the last Savage Avengers, guys, the Avengers lost. They lost. And what's the wizard's name again? The Kulangath? The Conan's blood god wizard or cannibal wizard, whatever he is. He defeated the Avengers. He pretty much defeated almost everyone on Earth. And in the last issue, we had Dr. Doom show up to take him on. Only come to find out it wasn't Doom. Doom's dead. It was Conan in Doom's armor.
Oh, crap.
Yeah. And Conan's wielding the ebony blade. Yeah. So some badass stuff is happening. But the way he needed to tap someone because he had already lost the fight. Like, pretty much all of mankind is at this point dead, just about, except for Kulan Gath worshippers. And what he did was he carved his name into Kang's tomb, his Egyptian tomb, and set a date. So Kang showed up and wound up saving Conan, and then it went from there. And yeah. Yeah, it was kind of amazing. And there's even more that's going to be revealed in this that just blew my mind. But realize that not only does Conan have the ebony blade, he's also got venom. It's not venom, though. It's like that other symbiote that's just venom-like. There was a sword at one point that was half dead. Yeah, at the very beginning of Savage Avengers. So he's still got that. But there is a lot of wildness going on in this run. It's great. The art is amazing. The story is great. It's just, it's man, I'm worried. Is Savage Avengers coming to an end anytime soon? I hope not. But Jerry Dugan is sure a busy fellow. But God, this is just a perfect run for comics. And it's not my pick of the week. It's just a close second. Next is going to be my absolute pick of the week. And this is Wells, Gleason, Menez. And it's the Amazing Spider-Man Beyond Chapter 1. Now, I cannot talk about a number 1 without spoiling some of it. And even though this is issue 75 of Amazing Spider-Man, it's technically a number 1 for a new run. So I'm going to talk a little bit about it. First of all, what's my favorite thing about this book, Cam? It's not Nick Spencer. That's my favorite thing about this book. I was so over that Nick Spencer run, and God, did I hate the ending of that. But okay. So Amazing Spider-Man. Well, there's a lot to unpack here. Cam, you know who's going to be in this, right?
A certain clone.
Yeah, a certain clone by the name of Ben Reilly. Only he's not going to be assuming the identity of the Scarlet Spider. He's going to be going full-blown Amazing Spider-Man. So that's wild to see. I mean, we've seen it before, but
Not showing their dark times.
Yeah, those dark times we don't talk about. But so we're gonna see how this plays out. It is a number 1, so I'm gonna spoil a little bit of it. We're going to have an exchange between Riley and Parker. It was actually quite touching. You're going to get a lot of action in this book. The art is stellar. I mean, really good. I like this art better than the last Amazing Spider-Man run. It's new artist though, right? Who's the last artist? I don't remember. I don't remember, but I like this art a lot. And this story is going to be centering around Ben Reilly, who I know the Scarlet Spider is really controversial, but I really still love the guy. I can't help it. And on top of that, I'm happy to say that Misty Knight will be in here. And if you know the Scarlet Spider's lore, you know that she's been a staple tied to part of his lore for quite some time. So is it a good read? Yes, it's an amazing read. I love the art. I love the story. Really, you're getting like 3 stories. It's a pretty thick book, and for a new run, which technically number 1, even though it's Amazing Spider-Man number 75, you're getting a lot of story for what's this priced at? $5.99. So a lot of story for $5.99. Pretty darn good. We will have it on our shelves. Next is Taylor, Coelho, and Reber, and we're talking about Dark Ages. Now, the last issue kind of blew us away for a lot of reasons. There was a lot to unpack on that last page. We saw like a steam-powered Iron Man. Yeah, steampunk Iron Man, and we saw Apocalypse. And the one thing that we took away that I thought was Lady Deathstrike at first, and apparently I'm not alone, there were a lot of people who thought that was Lady Deathstrike. But no, Cam being the super fan that he is, Cam, who was that with the Lady Deathstrike clause? It was Shuri on the last page. And we all took like a double and triple take, and yeah, that was Shuri with the Lady Deathstrike clause. As to why, is it explained in this? No. What we do get from this is that the world's pretty broken. But guess what? When you don't have the modern technology, what do you think attacks a lot? No, it's going to be the dark stuff, like vampires and werewolves. So mankind's dealing with a lot of that, which leads us to a rather unexpected chain of events. I was blown away. It was a really awesome read, and now I know how Apocalypse sort of got those heroes on his side, I guess you could say, without spoiling too much. It was a super interesting read. Does it sort of explain all that other stuff that happened? No, not quite yet. But really, really fun. And Dark Ages issue number 2, I would say absolutely don't skip. And if you missed the first one, can you still jump in and have a good time? I think so. I do not think you'll be too confused. Oh,
Tom Taylor, right?
Yeah, I think it is Tom Taylor. Tom Taylor.
We'll probably find out at the last day.
Next is Thompson Devia. Oh my God, it was Tom Taylor for DC, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And there are some similarities in that.
He's really good at dark stuff or like the low.
Yeah. So Thompson, Devia, Parsons, and Alberta, and we're talking about Captain Marvel, the last of the Marvels. Captain Marvel's got herself a problem, and that problem is there are a million Marvel-themed people attacking that are not really in control of their actions, and the suit that's surrounding them is sort of what takes advantage of that. And everyone else is trying not to become a victim of it. I think Kamala Khan is starting to be covered with that, and that's just Cap's final straw. Like Captain Marvel's not having it when Kamala Khan gets attacked. So yeah, pretty interesting to see. This issue does pick up with that. I mean, I haven't spoiled anything. You can tell from the cover, but the person who turns out to be the source of it, I have issues because the last time they showed this person, their colors were very Sleeper-esque, if you will, and we had confused it with Sleeper. Now their colors are green and black. Yeah. So it's probably spoiled it for you too. Yeah. I probably spoiled a bit too much as is, but I'm just annoyed. I mean, she already called it out in the last issue, so you shouldn't be surprised because they mentioned the last issue. But at any rate, is it good? Yes. The art is amazing. The story is ridiculously fun. Captain Marvel's already figured out who it is, but it's a character that I as a villain, I don't care about this character. I don't think he will either, but it's a good story. It's still a really fun story. Plus, anytime you get to see Captain Marvel and Miss Marvel belt out, I have a damn fun time with that. Next is Fire, Stressing, Dollhouse, and Crank. We're talking about Rick and Morty. Rick's new hat. I hadn't been reading this. Cam, have you been reading this?
Nope.
Nobody's been reading this. This issue centers around, well, they're sort of in the different afterlives and dying and being reborn and dealing with the different afterlives and what they're like. And that's the entire premise of this book. Now, is it fun? Actually, yeah, I had a good time with this one, and I'm super critical to Rick and Morty books because they're never quite as fun as the cartoons, except for that D&D. That one's killer. But this one was pretty good. I had a good time with it. I wasn't bored. I will say it was super weird, and I think if you're a newcomer to Rick and Morty, you might be confused. But if you're a newcomer to Rick and Morty, would you be buying the comics? Probably not. But it's a good time for a Rick and Morty fan, and we'll have it on our show. It is issue 3 of that event, though. Fair warning. Next is Older, Bruno, and Nalty, and we're talking about Star Wars, The High Republic Adventures. Now, this one centers around a Jedi that wears a mask because of their culture, something that they do, and it's like a bone mask, like a rite of passage. And I believe, yeah, I don't know that tribe. I think it's a new one entirely, and you can see them on this cover. But I believe this is going to be like differences between your culture and the Jedi culture is what it seems to be edging up towards. And I'm intrigued by it. The story is pretty fun. I've actually had almost a better time with the adventure stuff than I have like the mainline stuff up until the last couple of issues. I need to scratch my nose on my mask. The other side of my mask, sorry. My nose got Ishy. But I was having a lot more fun with it because, I don't know, like issues 4 through 7 were just this lull, and they just kept dealing with that plant monster, and I was just like, oh, I'm sick of this. But meanwhile, the Adventures one was doing like this whole, hey, we have a Padawan, and there's another Padawan that fell in with the wrong crowd, but they're both force sensitive. One goes one way, one goes the other way. I like those kind of stories. Like, those are always a good time for me. I gotta scratch my nose again. My nose is just itchy. This was more of the same good. The art is the same. I do prefer the mainline Star Wars High Republic art to the Adventures art. I don't know. This is just a little bit more cartoony, but this is more aimed at kids, so it makes sense. If you have a kid, will they love this Star Wars book? Absolutely. This is a good buy for any kid, tween, teen. I think we would all sell that, and adults too. Next is Scotty Young, Jorge Corona, Jean-Francois Belleau. I'm sure that's French, and I took 3 years of French and still pronounced that wrong. Nate Picos, and this is The Me You Love in the Dark. Now, this book is so weird, but good, and I was right. I nailed the premise of this. It centers around, well, a really sentient haunted house that can even like take on sort of a humanoid form that is just like a face full of eyes and like sort of a body. And the gal that's living in this haunted house gets over her fear and actually falls in love with the haunted house. And then it goes from there. And I don't, one, that's not the best idea. So eventually this is going to turn pretty dark, I'm sure. But 2, I've never seen this before. Like sentient haunted houses, sure, but never somebody that falls in love with the haunted house. We were watching Treehouse of Horror today, and the Simpsons like actually tried to move into the haunted house and gave it a choice, and that is still something different So this is, if you need a book that is completely different and sort of breaking a lot of the horror rules, this is it. The art is amazing. I wouldn't quite say it's a horror story just yet. It seems like a love story right now. The art is different. The story is actually really fun and intriguing. I'm having a good time, but Scotty Young doesn't put out too much stuff that I don't like. So we will have that on our shelf. Next is a book. It's American Mythology Productions. I did not know they had this brand. This is Willy's Wonderland. Now, if Willy's Wonderland looks a bit familiar to you, it's because there's a Nicolas Cage movie labeled Willy's Wonderland. And if that looks a bit familiar to you, it's because it's Five Nights at Freddy. They just didn't pay for the brand. Like, what the heck, Hollywood? Why don't you just pay for the brand and put Nicolas Cage in Five Nights at Freddy? Like, what are you doing? Anyways, so is the story good? Well, it was entertaining. It felt very B-movie-esque, but I think that's what they're going for. Like, that's exactly what they're going for. Now, I will say that Five Nights at Freddy's creeps me out pretty bad, and that I love Nicolas Cage, but that Willy's Wonderland movie creeps me out pretty bad. And the reason for it is I used to work at Bullwinkle's. Yeah, so I worked at an animatronic center that was like Chuck E. Cheese, but with Bullwinkle characters. And I still hear those sounds in my sleep. So that stuff definitely creeps me out. And I think it's worse for me than it is for because I've seen young kids playing Five Nights at Freddy's at like birthday party events that my kids gone to, and they're like laughing about it. And I'm like, like horror filled. October 14th is not our last day. Our last day is actually probably the 9th. But thank you, Carl. We've changed that. Yes, Gerald. Sadly something did us in. We can't really talk about it, but I'll talk to you later, man. But anyways, I should get back to this. Willy's Wonderland is a good book. Yeah, actually, I had a pretty good time with it. It does feel like B-movie. But if you like a little bit of that in your jam, or you want a little bit more Nicolas Cage-inspired horror, then you've got this here for you on the shelf. Worked with Cage on Alcatraz. Craig, you need to tell me that story because that's one of my favorite movies. What an ass! Oh, you really need to tell me this story. Next is Rick Remender, Andre Lima Arahu, and Chris O'Halloran and Russ Wooten. I think I nailed everyone's names properly for the first time. Now, I love Rick Remender because I'm a huge Deadly Class fan, but this is A Righteous Thirst for Vengeance. I didn't know what to expect, but I went into this hoping I was going to get some Rick Remender deep dialogue and stuff like that. Sadly, I didn't get the deep dialogue. I don't know. He's probably just holding his hand and waiting for something a bit more intense to happen to do something like that. But this story is a story of vengeance, sort of. It seems like the main character is not fully explained, but he's hunting someone. And in the end, you come to find out, well, what type of person he's hunting. And it's something that's going to be violent, bloody, and brutal is what I'm going to say. And I loved it. I like these kind of stories. They're always my jam. Is it a trope that we've sort of seen before? Yeah, of course. We've always seen, like, vengeance stories where one person's hunting another. There's nothing new here. But will Rick Remender make it new by the end of it? Yeah, definitely. His dialogue is just, it's something to be worshipped and witnessed. And this will be no different. The art is outstanding. I mean, out-freaking-standing. It feels like a more refined version of an art that I'm used to with him, because I'm used to the Deadly Class art, which that art really grew on me and is a different style of art. But, oh, God, it's really, really good. And I would say A Righteous Thirst for Vengeance is going to be my indie pick of the week, without a doubt. So Marvel pick of the week is still Amazing Spider-Man 75, and indie pick of the week, A Righteous Thirst for Vengeance, without a doubt. Next is Rob Williams, Will Conrad, Marco Lesko, and this is out. Now, again, you can't really talk about a number one without spoiling it, but I will tell you this one centers around, well, Nazis and concentration camps and Nazis doing occult stuff. And what do you think happens, Cam? If Nazis are doing weird occult stuff, it's kind of a constant trope. Probably something dark and mysterious comes out and starts murking them. Yeah, there's something nasty like that. That tends to be, if you're going to do like the Nazi superstition sort of horror story, that's always what happens. And then you don't feel bad about them getting killed because they're Nazis. Like, who cares? But it's okay. So is it a bit tropey and a bit predictable? Yes, it kind of was. But is the comic fun? Is the art good? Yeah, actually, it was really interesting. The art was good. I wasn't bored. And I kind of want to see where this is going. Yeah, okay, it's sort of a typical horror trope that we've seen before, but I'd say give this one a chance. At least pick it up and thumb through it and decide if you're going to buy it. It wasn't bad.
Sorry, my friend.
No, you're good, dude. Next is, and this is the last issue of this run, Lore, Vicio, and Bleed, Champions, Killer App Finale, and oh God, was this Champions run good? So is the run over, Cam?
I don't know.
I think though, you said the run was over though. At least this arc is finished, right? I hope it's not the end of this Champions run, because God, Champions have been relaunched like 4 or 5 times, and I'm tired of saying that, but yeah, this was such a good run. The art is stellar. This wrap up of this event, they were dealing with Roxanne Corps and like overreach of corporations and breaking government regulations, and what does that lead to? And then Roxanne, they were also dealing with fallout from the Kamala Act, and I had such a good time. And this, as wrap up goes, yeah, this is a pretty good ending. Although I will say, I don't know what the champions do to celebrate it at the end is very cheesy, but I guess it's very tween too. Teen. No, should I spoil it? Should I?
No.
Okay, okay. It's a little bit of a cheesy sort of wrap up to the Champions arc, but I didn't hate it. The art is really good, the story is really good, and really Champions is aimed at younger readers than me, and yet I had a blast with it if I'm honest. So you will absolutely love it. I'm envisioning some Cthulhu monster popping out of it. Next is Ayala and Reese, and this is New Mutants. Now, New Mutants, I have this love-hate relationship with New Mutants. I love the art and hate the story. And actually, I'm having a good time with this one. The last issue was pretty good, and this one was much improved. Now, granted, they're dealing with a villain that it's whenever they deal with this villain, the Shadow King, he's such a creepy and seedy character that I do love seeing people deal with him. But it falls victims to the usual telepath like issues where everyone thinks that they're dealing with something, and then you see them all like squirming on the floor, like to the telepath's like power and stuff like that. Like that always happens with telepaths in comics. Well, you might see that in this issue. But the art, my God, if you are an art fanatic like I am, and you buy comics for the art, I mean, I buy them for the story too, but there are times where I just pick something up because the art is amazing. The art for New Mutants is stellar. Like, it's ridiculously good art. The story is just, it's been mostly throwaway up until the last couple issues. Have you been reading this, Nate? You're giving me these, like, knowing looks, so I was, like, wondering what you were going to say.
I was thinking about showing that is what it also a motivation was like a poster, and then it makes sense for psychics to be splitting because no one's going to see what they're doing on the astral plane unless you have access to it.
Right, exactly. But yeah, this art is super good, like ridiculously good art. I love it. So the art is amazing. The story actually has picked up, and if you've been somebody who's not liked most of the New Mutants run, it might be a time to give it another chance because the last couple issues have been good. Next is McKay, Guerra, and Kansani, and we're talking about Magic the Gathering issue number 7. Now, who knew that Magic the Gathering? I mean, I guess it makes sense. Wizards of the Coast owning D&D and Magic the Gathering. Of course, they're going to be good storytellers, but this comic has been outstanding. Either of you been reading it? No. It's Jed McKay, yeah. And it really is, it's like the politics of just different wizards and mage groups and guilds going back and forth and deciding how to handle certain crises. And really, it's always going to end in some type of large dragon. I mean, come on, it's fantasy. That's going to happen. Wizards are so OP, so the way you bring wizards down or a peg is you involve like a dragon or a lich, like something. Yeah. Anyways, so hi Steph. Is it good? Yes, the art is still stellar. I mean, really, I need somebody to inject this art into my eye. It's that good. It's so good. The story is still great. It still feels like a bunch of politics and twists and turns, and there are unexpected ways it goes. And the way wizards solve their problems are always really kind of inventive. So I'm not bored at all with this. And if I was a bigger Magic fan, like I played longer than just a few times, I played, I think, the first year of Magic and then stopped. I would probably be eating this up and devouring it and loving it intensely. It's still really, really good, and you need to come pick it up. Next is Howard Toe and Arcianega, and we're talking about Excalibur, number 24. Now, Excalibur, okay, can we just call it for what it is? I'm just going to call Excalibur for what it is. It started out as the mutant, like, mystery fantasy portal team that was going to handle all the fantasy stuff. And then it just became the Captain Britain comic we never really knew we wanted. And have you been having fun with it? Have you been reading it? I haven't really liked it. it feels like it's like, oh, hey, there's more Captain Britons, which if you know Captain Britain, that makes sense. There's always more Captain Britons. It's kind of a multiverse power, but I don't care for Captain Britain. I never have. And even with Betsy Braddock as like the main Captain Britain, I still don't care for it. Maybe even less because of how easily she got defeated in Sword of X.
Oh, God.
That was embarrassingly bad. So I haven't been having the best time. It's gotten a little better. I mean, we've done some Rogue and Gambit stuff that has made it a bit more fun. And I have to say that there's decent action and the art is good. It's just I don't know. I've never Captain Britain's not my jam. Let's talk Wells, Segovia, and Burrito. And look, I'm gonna stamp this book as the most improved of the mutant lines. I will have to say, which is sad because I think it's nearing an end. There's so I'm gonna say Hellions is the most improved. I'm gonna declare it right now. Hellions was, in my opinion, the worst of the mutant books, and somehow became one of the best. Not one of the best, but one of the most improved mutants books. I had a really good time with it, and last issue sort of centered around all of them being cornered by a clone of Mr. Sinister and some Araco mutants that we had predicted that at least one of the Sinisters was dead and left behind or something, and he was a turncoat because of course he was, and so they got cornered, and then old Havoc let a scream fly that was just something of nightmares. So yeah, and he might have saved the day, but he also might have killed a bunch of people. And so it was a so-so takeaway. I didn't hate the ending of the last. I mean, I actually really loved it. The art was good. The story was good. I don't know. He's the worst of the Summers brothers. I will say that. Havoc. Who do you think is the worst of the Summers family?
I only really used two, so can't really.
Well, yeah, but then there's like alternate timelines. What?
July.
Well, okay. Anyways, the art was okay. I don't know. It's just the most improved. Like, I've picked up Hellions and actually been like, hey, I'm excited to read Hellions. And, that's a weird thing to say because it's been like 10 issues where I wasn't excited to read Hellions. But issue 16 was pretty good, and it's on our shelf.
They're crossing over with Marauders.
Are they crossing over with Marauders? Who's going to be writing it?
I didn't say anything about change. Okay. All I know is that the cover's got Katie, Kitty Pride, Dawkins, and Psylocke.
Okay, cool. Well, Psylocke's sort of doing her own. Well, I'm sorry, I'm spoiling stuff. I can't spoil. Okay. Next is going to be the Wonder Woman 80th anniversary 100-page spectacular. This is a thick book, guys. I mean, $10, you're getting a trade paperback worth of book. And I'm holding the Jen Bartel cover because I'm declaring owner's draw, and this is going to be mine because I love Jen Bartel so friggin' much. I love everything about her art. So this is mine. What do you get in this story? Well, you get this is typical 80th anniversary stuff. You're going to get 7 stories about Wonder Woman. Where do you think they're going to center around? Probably Steve Trevor. Could you guess any? Oddly enough, I don't think they're. There's sort of one, kind of. There's there's that. There is actually a story in this, a lesser. Well, I mean, I've never seen it before, but a story where Clark Kent goes out with Diana Prince, and we know they've dated before, but not. Yeah, we know. And Injustice Universe. Yeah, but I've never seen them date their alternate personalities, their secret personalities. Secret identity.
The last DC animated universe one.
Yeah.
Superman and Wonder Woman were dating before Clark and Lois got together.
Okay. Well, good to know. Did I have a good time with it? Yeah, I had a great time with it. I mean, really, you're getting 6 or 7 stories. They're all really fun. The art changes because the writers change. They're basically doing different writers and artists' takes on these stories, and they're all good. Some of the art is really stellar, to include that Jen Bartel cover, which is just amazing. Can somebody grab me a drink out of the back, like a water, something? My throat's about to go. Next is James Tinian IV, Alvaro Martinez Bueno, and Jordi Belair, and we're talking about Nice House on the Lake. So we saw that there was a huge, a huge mystery centering around the house on the lake. What was it? Well, pretty much all of mankind had been destroyed. The world was being destroyed, and these new aliens were invading. And one of the aliens was actually friends with a bunch of humans. So he kept them in the house on the lake and gave them everything they could ever want, to include what they thought was a mystery. They thought they were getting a busy mystery, like just keep them busy and hunt for this mystery. So a lot of them just gave up on it because they thought it was just like busy work. But we're going to get some of those mystery answers in this, and we're going to find out whether or not the house on the lake is what it seems, which right now it just seems like a giant escape room. The art is really, really good. The story is fun. It's gone in directions I didn't expect, and the dialogue is really, really unnerving at times. I mean that in a good way. Like, if you're going to read a horror comic, like, this is how you write dialogue. You make it a little bit shocking, a little bit unnerving, but really, really fun. And that's what you get in that. There is a lot of, like, just brutal scenes that are just beautiful. And I could honestly see Nice House on the Lake, like, in a movie. Mm-hmm. Something. Just made for that. We're going to go on to DC, but I don't know, guys. My throat's starting to, like, go. Talking too much. Tinian the Fourth, Jimenez, and Maury, and we're talking about Batman Fear State, Peacekeeper X versus Peacekeeper 1. Now, we didn't really see Peacekeeper X in the Future State, did we? We just saw Peacekeeper 1. What is happening in this? Well, Scarecrow betrayed Saint, and Scarecrow has actually done Fear State, where he's trying to make all of Gotham fear, and convinced all of them that Batman is dead. Meanwhile, like, Batman's trying to stop people from taking advice from the evil Oracle, I guess we could say. It's the Bat computer's been, or the Oracle's computer's been hijacked. Also at play, Peacekeeper 1 has been poisoned by Scarecrow and is pretty much doing his duty, or doing the bidding of Scarecrow right now too. So we're seeing all that. Meanwhile, Miracle Molly and all of her Unsanity Collective has taken refuge with Poison Ivy, who is split into at least two or three people. My God, Tinian, you really have thrown everything in the kitchen sink at us. And there are so many moving parts, but is it fun? Actually, yeah, the art is stellar. The story is really, really, really good. And I like, just me giving the synopsis doesn't spoil a thing because there's so much to it. And you're going to see a lot more unfold in this as well. Yeah. So a couple people put some pieces together. So we finally get a little bit of answers. On top of that, there is also the Clown Hunter story at the end. And we saw Clown Hunter, he was sort of doing like the street level thing, taking on like Joker's goons that are still left over. We saw at the end of the last issue that he was going up against the Scarecrow. Not the best villain to start with for your vigilante career. That's a real problem. We're going to see how that plays out for him, and honestly, it played out really well. Like, I liked seeing how the direction it went, and I want to know what the next issue is. So I loved both of these, but I think I was more interested by the end of the Clown Hunter series, like, issue, as to what was going to happen next. The first one was still pretty good too, though. Don't get me wrong. I'm not underselling it. And let me see. Is that my DC pick of the week? Should we make it Batman for last? Nah. Okay. Next is Are You Afraid of Darkseid? This is, if you can't tell, this is going to be like the Titans telling horror stories and different DC-themed horror stories. I think one centers around Harley, and another one centers around John Stewart. And it's actually really fun. All the stories, even though generally when DC puts out these sort of holiday-themed books, some of them tend to be throwaway. Like, I'm always like, there's one or two really good stories, and maybe a Bat Cow story, or something weird that you won't remember. I liked all of these stories. Now, the art was actually really good for one of these compilation books. Like, there wasn't a single artist that I thought dialed it in. It all felt really good. The stories were pretty fun. For Halloween stories, they had a bit too much lighthearted endings, which, go figure, it's DC. And obviously, this is an Are You Afraid of the Dark reference, so it's probably aimed at kids. But I had a really, really good time with it, and I think you will too. Is there anything that's probably going to affect main continuity? I don't think so, but If you need a little Halloween in your DC, then you've got it right here. DC in your Halloween. Either way. Next is V, Perkins, and Spicer, and we're talking about Swamp Thing. Now, this was almost my pick of the week. We've seen that the new Swamp Thing is dealing with some fallout and also dealing with, well, the Suicide Squad of all things, like being there and doing Waller's bidding and trying to like get control of a Swamp Thing, the younger one, and that's put him on a path with Peacemaker, who is just still a jerk as usual, just a giant jerk. And that happens. But what I didn't expect that got introduced last time was we saw there's a new Parasite. Yeah, a new Parasite and another new character being introduced. This Swamp Thing run is really sort of taking me by surprise, and I thought it was just going to be Alec Holland originally when I was like, oh, new Swamp Thing run, and then we got a totally new Swamp Thing with like a new origin and a different, somewhat different power sets at times. Like it seems like he can sleep and wake up and like be normal at times. So it's weirdness. They're going in different directions and it's fun. The art is very gritty, and I'm saying that as somebody who doesn't favor really gritty art. This is like chew your teeth gritty at times. But if you know Swamp Thing, you do know that Swamp Thing's art does tend to be a lot more gritty. There's not too many times it's like I think the only times I can think of it is like maybe Justice League Dark, where it's been a little less gritty. But usually Swamp Thing is kind of chew your teeth gritty style art, and it's good. Don't get me wrong. The art was great. The story was really, really fun. I'm just saying that if you're one of those kind of art snob people that doesn't like too much grit, like I usually am, then you might have issues with it. Pick it up, thumb through it, decide what you're going to do. Next is, I'm going to say this is my DC pick of the week, without a doubt. Crush and Lobo. Why is it my DC pick of the week? Tamaki, Nalpan, and Bon Vien. It was just so damn fun. So we saw like Crush and Lobo. Crush went to go visit her dad in space prison, and she got there and thought he was trying to make amends, and like own up to his mistakes. And he was doing like a group meeting where they all talked about their problems and stuff like that. And he wound up shaking her hand, and then lo and behold, the prison thought that Crush was Lobo. And then Lobo walks out of prison. Of course! Who didn't see that? Well, Crush didn't see that coming. The rest of us saw that coming. And you guys got your DC. Oh, you're still waiting for your. I'm sorry, Steph. But the art is really, really good. I mean, has there been anything to complain about this art, Ken?
No.
Nothing. Have you been reading this too, Nate?
Yes.
No, I mean, you've been reading it. But yeah, you liked it, right?
Would you say that he crushed her dreams?
Oh, Jacob, that pun. Anyways, so this issue is going to center. Well, she's cut a deal with the warden, and she's gone to go get Lobo back and take her dad back to prison, and she's only got something like 24 space hours or 48 space hours. I don't remember how it works out. So she's going to follow the trail of
The main man.
Yeah, but what is she following? We know about the main man. What do you think she's following?
Maybe essentially feel follows the destruction.
You've been pretty close. Cigar butts.
Okay.
She's gonna follow the trail of cigar butts, which makes sense with Lobo. Who knew Lobo would be this popular? I mean, he's the parody of Wolverine and has been this popular. I had a fun time with this issue. It went in directions I didn't expect. I laughed multiple times. There were just a couple unexpected turns. The writer is taking a character that is really fun by default, which is Crush, and somehow making her that much more fun and entertaining and engaging. And I love her inner monologue and her struggles, and I find a lot of myself in like the things she says. So it's just been a really, really good comic. I mean, yeah, it's not the deepest of substance. It doesn't have as much depth as like say Deadly Class, but it's a really, really fun comic, and I don't think you'll be disappointed. Should you pick up issue number 5 and start with issue number 5? Probably not, but it's still, I don't know that you'd be too confused. What do you think? Think you pick up issue 5 and maybe run with it?
No, that's a good point.
Yeah, maybe go back a couple issues. I think we have a couple issues, so yeah. Next is DC Horror, and we're talking about Soul Plumber. Again, we can't talk about number 1s without spoiling a little bit of it, so I'm going to discuss it. This story centers around a guy who is trying to learn to do what a televangelist does, which is like literally reach into someone's soul and pull out the darkness in their soul. Yeah, yeah, with like a machine, and it was kind of interesting. Was it a horror story? Not really. There wasn't too much in it that made me go like, "Ooh, that's spooky," and it's being sold as DC horror. I'm guessing they're doing a slow burn, and the next couple of issues it's gonna like pick up. But as for this issue, was it fun? Yeah, I had a good time with it. It was an interesting story. It's not something I've seen too often. I mean, we've seen sort of similar, but it's done in a different fashion, and it's just different enough that it's engaging. The art, I will say, once again, horror comic, so you're gonna get a little bit more gritty art. Honestly, this art feels like Swamp Thing, so you're gonna get a little bit more gritty art, and that's just to be expected because horror comics with cartoony art just feel out of place. You know what I mean?
If the horror comedy works.
That's true.
That's true. Next is a book guys, I really, really tried. Jury Kernev, Alina Kalishnikov, Kalishnikov, but spelled in a different way. We're talking about Corset. Now, this is a Scout Comics book. The art is actually really good. There were times it did feel a little bit Zenoscope generic, but I'm glad the artist sort of dialed it in by the end, and it really has a nice flavor to it. Now, the story centers around, well, a gal. This whole town sort of hinges on like this fashion designer that gives these elaborate fashion shows, and this one gal disrupts it and then gets called to be seen by this designer that nobody else has ever like seen. He's just talked to them from a dark room, and it goes from there. So there's a bit of a mystery. There's a bit of spookiness. Oh, thanks, Tyler. That's nice. There's a bit of mystery. There's a bit of spookiness. But the problem with the story is there's just a bit much, like it's just dialogue. There's like no action. It's just a bunch of dialogue. And I wanted to say that there was, the writer turned a great phrase, and it was stellar and amazing, but it wasn't. There was nothing that just sort of blew my mind. That said, I didn't hate it. To me, this feels like a book where you give it one more issue, and then you decide if you're going to sub to it or not. Because I think that the writer is just about to pull back the curtain and reveal something. And what is revealed in here is kind of, it's not really anything too shocking. But let's give them one more issue. Now, did I hate it? No. I thought the art was amazing. The story was a little low, a little boring. But let's give them an issue. I'd say pick this up, thumb through it while it's on the shelf, and decide if you're going to buy it. Like, decide if you want to commit. If not, wait for one more review that's sadly not going to be ours. But it is what it is. Next is Rosenberg, Marino, Stanton, Ba, Areola, Spicer, and Filardi. We're talking about Joker Presents a Puzzle Box. There's a lot of people working on this. This is issue 3, though. And I'm trying to remember, because we have the current Joker series, which has Gordon dealing with the Joker. And then we have this series, which also has Gordon dealing with the Joker. And I think I've sort of crossed like them over and like gotten the stories confused. Yeah. So this centers around, well, Gordon's obsession with Joker when he was much younger. I think he was Colonel. You called him Colonel. Maybe the Joker was just taking a dig at being commissioner. Could be that. Could be that. But what do you get in the story? Well, you get a ton of action and a ton of villains. And I mean like a ton. Like I did not expect there to be that many villains. There's some D-listers in here, some mainliners like Mr. Freeze, Man-Bat, Two-Face. There's a lot of villains in here. And they're all sort of coming to head with each other, trying to deal with fallout from what the Joker has done. And whether or not stuff's going to be revealed remains to be seen. They've got some of the answers from some things, but they don't fully understand. Like there's a book that isn't fully explained in this, that is owned by one of the villains. So yeah, there is still a grander mystery at play, and really this is just sort of, who is it? Oh, covered by Chip Zdarsky did the cover. Oh wow! But really, Rosenberg is just tipping his hand. Rosenberg is one of my favorite writers who was doing Marvel and now has leapt back over to DC. But he was doing DC.
He was doing. Isn't he still doing Star Wars? I know he's doing Punisher.
Yeah, he was definitely doing Punisher. He was doing Multiple Man. Yeah. So he's just had a long career in comics. I love Rosenberg, so I'm gonna give this a go. Now I will say the art for me is kind of oddly enough like the weaker part of this book. The art didn't feel as strong as I wanted it to be, but the story was pretty fun. So if you like a lot of action, you'll probably have a really good time with it. Is it my pick of the week? No, it came up a little short, but it wasn't a bad book by any means. And I think if you're a Batman fan, you'll probably eat this up and have a good time. And that, sadly, is our last show. So we're gonna have to say goodbye to you guys, but come see us on Saturday. You will come have a good time with us on Saturday, see cosplayers and hang out and talk to us. And just remember that endings aren't really endings; they're just new chapters, as he said. And we love you guys. And, hopefully we'll see you again.
All about the journey.
Yeah, all about the journey.
Yep.
So take care, guys.
I'm glad Spidey's pick of the week. Woo, Spidey.
And Spidey's pick of the week on our last
Maybe
week.
Transformers. Last week, never mind.
Yeah, it was last